Hello, everyone.
Welcome to our ReSharper and Rider release party for the versions 2023.3. We are thrilled to have you all. I'm here with our team of .NET developer advocates, and we are joining you from all over Europe and the United States. Let us know in the chat where you're tuning in from. Would be happy to know. So you're welcome to ask your questions as we go along with sharing all of the powerful updates our team prepared for you in this festive season. We'll make sure to address the questions either in the chat or even by demoing some of the stuff right away. I'd also like to remind you that this session is being recorded, so everyone will be able to watch it again on YouTube at any time later. And yeah, if you're subscribed to any of our channels, you will see the URL link to this release party there too. So this release is really special. It's maybe one of the most exciting releases for the last years. We have tons of helpful additions and improvements to both ReSharper and Rider. You can, as always, you can check them all on our What's New product pages for ReSharper and Rider. And it could be also useful to read through the updates for other JetBrains IDEs, such as IntelliJ IDEA, WebStorm, and DataGrip. As Rider is based on the IntelliJ platform and therefore receives some of their feature updates. Yeah, so I think that was everything I had to say for the intro, and yeah, let's get the party started.
Everyone is so silent. I think we are all disappointed that Rachel is not here.
Yes, right. That's true. That's true.
She's in America now, so pray for Rachel. No, I'm just joking.
You're also in America.
Hey,
am I constantly praying for you?
Maybe. I have a compound here, but no. Let's get back onto the release party train here. So yeah, who's first? Who's gonna demo some stuff?
I think Matt is first.
I think it should be Matt. Yes.
Yeah.
Can I
All right,
hand
well,
over microphone?
First, yes.
Sure.
Yes, please do. This is it's my turn to shine, isn't it, Khalid?
Dude, you're the best. You're the best, Matt. You're always shining. You're so bright. I have to wear sunglasses.
All right. Shush now. Let's go back onto the release train. Right. Yes, I'm going to talk about the AI assistant, which is kind of the big ticket item, really. I think with this release, it's pretty nifty. We've put it into all of our products with this release, so ReSharper, Rider, and all of the other IDEs as well. First thing to say is that it is a paid service. So it's something which is separate to your actual subscription to the product itself. But it's a paid service. We've got the details for the pricing available as well. And I'm going to take you for a quick spin through it. So let's put my screen on there we go, on the share there. And I'm going to start with a bit of ReSharper. And first of all, we're going to have a look to see what we can do. Let's start off by creating a class. Oh, I can't spell. Let's do that one. Start that properly. And then one of the first things that we've got in ReSharper is going to be the multi-line completion, really. So, of course, we obviously have the thing, you hit enter, the AI will go off and see what code should go next and suggest something for you there. So, obviously, see, this is what happens when a Mac user tries to do something on Windows.
Parallels master.
I know, this is good. And so, you can just hit enter and it's going to suggest something for you. Obviously, we could have the traditional hello world, but we're going to do something a little bit different. Let's create an array and let's do a new array. In fact, let's just make it a zero length array of integers. And then I'm going to start creating a binary search of my array. And search for number 10. That's it. And we can see, obviously, that method doesn't exist. We can use traditional sort of ReSharper items to create it. tab through to do that. And if I just hit enter in there, we should then get a proper suggestion. Again, so it's the multi-line completion which gets done for us, and we can use that to create code that we would most likely get. Now, obviously, this is a bit of a contrived example. We'd probably end up with binary search, using the binary search which is in the BCL, but it's a good example of the code that it can be created for you. So let me just create a new file. Let's create a class. Let's just call this one my shipment. And now we've got a class here. And because it's just a shipment, the AI can actually tell us, give us useful information here and suggest useful properties that we can use. So we can have a shipment ID. What else is going to come up? Destination, that sounds good. And let's have a look. Delivery date. Yeah, so we'll have those. So these are the kind of fields that you would expect as properties here on a shipment. And so it's nice. We've got the multi-line completion. It can do all this stuff for us, but we can do a whole lot more than that. And the whole point of the AI assistant is to be a little more useful and a little bit more sort of woven through the IDE itself there, and smart and understanding some of the concepts there. So if you hit Alt-Enter, you're going to have the AI assistant item here, and you've got a bunch of different items going on here that you can use. One, a useful one there, writing XML documentation, and so it can sort of take away some of the boilerplate for you. Let's just get rid of the solution window there. And it can generate things for you. It generates it in this chat window on the side here, and we can sort of copy that and paste it. So I could copy that, or I could actually just sort of insert it in the editor directly to work with it like that. Again, other useful things in here are looking to find issues in something, explaining the code as well. So we can ask the AI to go off and explain code, and it'll do it as part of the chat. Let's just stop that for now. And other couple of things I want to show you in the assistant here, options to refactor things. And you can even get it to do interesting stuff as well. It's got its own prompt library, so you can actually record your own prompts there and get it to do your own things. So you could have something which would be explained like a pirate, and it would explain it in the style of a pirate, which is quite fun. But you can see we've got these extra prompts that we're adding ourselves here. So if we have a look at the prompt library here, you can see the list of the prompts that are built in and our custom ones here as well. So you can sort of explain the following code represented by our selection variable here in the style of a pirate. And the nice thing about this as well is you can actually improve the prompt with AI. So you can use AI to actually make your prompt better and decide whether you want it in the Alt-Enter menu or not. So that's a great way of being able to sort of extend this and work with it yourself. You can, of course, just ask items here. How do I sort, I don't know, penguins by height? And the AI will go up and try and figure that out and hopefully give you information. One of the nice things it does is it takes the context of your current project into account there. Not, of course, the whole project. There's too much information to be able to send there, but we can do lots more other things as well. So if I just do a new chat here, and if I say re-implement the binary search in this class, in this file, to search over a list of my shipment instances. Let's just look at, I can't spell at all, my shipment, and choose a field to use as search criteria. And what this is going to do now, you're going to see there, it said loading the active file there. And so it can go off and look at the current file. It can go and look at, well, let's, I said my shipment there. So let me just reprompt. Let me just edit that because I put in a typo there. If you see the messages here, it says it's looking at the active editor file. It should also go off and look at the current symbols that are available there. So it can go and find my shipment, and it can go and see useful information, get that, and use that to build something which is more relevant to your actual code there. And in fact, if we look at the attachment, if we get to the message which I sent, we can see that there are 2 files sent along with it. So we actually send context with it. We understand that you're a C# project. We understand what's being referenced and so on. And we can actually create a binary search there, which is using my list of my shipment items there, using the appropriate thing. So that's ReSharper. I'm going to quickly switch over to Rider. And I'm back on the Mac, so I should hopefully do less typos. And we've got an AI assistant window here as well. And again, it's a chat, which we can ask anything for it. It's smart. It understands the context. So we say, how do I create an editor window? And it should understand that I'm in a Unity project here. I'll show you some more of this one later, and it'll give me how I can create a Unity editor window, which I can then sort of copy and paste into my code if I want to. I could sort of make this a bit more interesting by saying, make the background red. And it kind of keeps that context going there as well. So it understands that I want to make the background color of the editor window we just created red. So this is nice here. Again, we've got other features here. Let me just get rid of those XML files there. We can right-click down the bottom there. We've got AI actions, and I can write documentation here. And while that's going off, we can have a look at other things we're going in there. Explaining code again, suggesting the refactorings. It'll look at some code and work with that. We've got my phone going off.
Hello, hello.
I think students
Is
are
that the
calling.
AI
They want to
calling?
be overpowered.
Yes. So so that was the phone, which hopefully won't go again, but probably will. We've got a nice feature here with generating code. So I'm going to do this one now here. So let's switch over here. AI actions, generate code. We get to be able to generate the code in line, and I can say, make sure that number of stars earned is less than 5. And now with the AI, will go off and generate that for us, and it'll actually show us a diff, so we can actually see it in line there, and we can see what's going on. And we could say, accept that, and it would add it for us. We can then go to our commit window, and we can then say, well, we know that this stuff changed here. If I add that into the staging area, I've got a button here to be able to generate the message. And it would actually look at the changes that have happened in the files there and give me an explanation of what's going on there. So it's nice. We can use that to take away some of the boilerplate stuff for you. On a similar note, we can actually sort of go into our list of commits and go and find an interesting one, like add an extension method here. And it's like, well, what actually happened? I can right click on that one again and then explain the commit with the AI assistant. I'll just close some of those down there. It actually then shows us in the chat window what's going on.
So no reason to write proper commit messages anymore. Did I get you right?
You can use the AI to suggest a good commit message for you, but then you want to review it, and choose it yourself. We're calling this an assistant because it's not going to do the work for you, but it's going to certainly help you. So it's going to suggest a whole bunch of things for you, give you a lot of useful information, help you learn stuff, help you figure things out, explain things for you, and a whole load of things. So so that's kind of a very quick overview of it, really. There's a lot of things you can do in there. You can add your own custom prompts, as I say, to generate lots of other stuff, and yeah, have a go and use it. As I say, this is an additional cost on top of your product subscription, but it's available to have a go with right now. We've got a trial version as well, which you can log into and have a go with. So I think that.
Oh,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it's probably the right time to also show the options for subscriptions as well. Let me just do it real quick. Yeah, here it is.
Yep, so these are the prices we've got there. Again, it's a subscription-based thing there. So for individuals, you can get it for $10 a month or $100 a year. And for organizations then as well, it'll be $20 per user per month or $200 per user per year. And again, we do have a trial version available. So if you log in to the assistant, then you can have a go and try it all out for yourself. Should point out as well that nothing happens until you actually log into the assistant. So if you're concerned about any kind of data sharing, nothing happens until you actually log into the assistant. And then once you have logged in, data is sent to our AI service. It's then sent on to third-party LLMs, but the data is not stored, and we do not, and our third parties do not use your data to train anything. So you can rest assured there. And you can also disable this at a project level. You can disable it at a plugin level as well. So you've got full control.
I have a question.
Far away.
When can an AI explain all the new Rider and ReSharper features so I can just sit back, relax, and also enjoy the party?
No.
Like a pirate,
AI
like
could
a
not.
pirate.
AI could not do the kind of job that we do. Shh. Okay.
All right. We still need our jobs, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I guess we can then move on to the next feature. And I think it's now turn of Maarten, right?
Yes, let's do this.
Okay.
No, wrong
Is it the right screen?
I'll take, yeah, do the other one.
Okay, yeah, got it.
Maarten
Alright,
has a
thank you.
Mac. Maarten has a Mac.
I have a Mac, but I also have Windows, so this is Windows. I like to, in our release streams and our release parties, to also show some of the older features in Rider. So I explicitly did not zoom in my IDE yet, just so that you could see that we now have the Zoom IDE function that you can use to make things more readable for anyone who is watching whatever you're doing. So let's go with 125. I think that's fine. So let's start there. Okay, Rider has lots of new features, and one that I like a lot and that a lot of people will actually like, I think, is in running multiple projects. So before, you may know that you can run and debug your application at the top side of the window here yet in the title bar. You have run configurations where you can have multiple run configurations and you can run them individually, debug them individually, and so on. The good news is that we have a new run configuration now to run multiple projects at the same time. So you can either go to the menu here, edit configurations, or if you say that you want to, for example, run these 3 projects, you can just right-click those, go with run multiple projects, and you will see the dialog where you can create a new run configuration. So let's go with those 3. And then you will see that you have some options on when you want to start those projects. So by default, Rider will just start all of them at the same time. So immediately when you launch the run configuration or press F5, you will be running the applications that are configured here. You can choose that some do not start the debugger. So if you want to run a backend and a frontend, for example, you can debug the backend and not debug the frontend, but you may still want to start it at the same time. So you can check one of those boxes and skip debugging for specific projects. You can also say, okay, I want to start this project after the previous one started. So if the front end depends on the backend, you may want to have the front end wait for the backend to start. You can wait for a specific port to open as well. So if your backend is a web API and you, for example, want to wait until port 80 is opened to have the API ready to go, you can do that as well. And then Rider will monitor that port. And only when that port becomes available, we'll start the second project that is in there. So pretty cool to see all of those and pretty cool to play with them. You can do more than just start projects. You can actually add additional tasks there as well. So you can run existing run configurations that you may have as well as part of this multi-launch. And also specific tasks. So if you want to, for example, clean your solution before you start everything, you can do that. Build solution is, of course, one that you may want to do there as well. And if you want to publish something to a production website or to Azure Web Apps or something like that, and use that as part of your debugger, you can also, for example, publish the backend first and only then start the front end that consumes the backend. So pretty cool. Definitely give that a try. I do think that's gonna be good for a lot of people working with multiple projects in their solution.
So probably everyone who has used compound run configurations before probably wants to switch over to those. Yeah. Yeah,
exactly. Before we had compound run configurations, but they were not really aware of .NET, so you could still use that one and start multiple projects at the same time. But those would not typically start the debugger. Would have it would be hard to, for example, wait for port 80 to open and so on. So the multi-launch, the new run configuration type, is definitely a step forward there.
Yeah, I'd also like to add, a lot of people in the community have been giving us feedback. So if there's different scenarios that can trigger the next step in a multi-launch configuration to happen, please let us know. I think some feedback was like, read the console output from the previous process to see if a message had kind of come out. So when to launch, if you have different scenarios, please enter issues and we'll consider them.
That would be really cool indeed. All right, let's move on to the next one. I think that was also one that a lot of people have been asking for. So previously in Rider, this is almost like a show that is ongoing. Previously in Rider, you would have the tools architecture menu where you could generate a project diagram to see like how projects interact with each other, what the dependencies are, and so on. And a lot of people were asking, like, can I do the same thing at the class level? Can I see how classes relate to each other, which other classes they are using, and so on? And yes, we have that. It's not available from the architecture menu here because otherwise you would get a diagram with lots of things. Especially in this project, I think I have too many classes, so that would be unreadable. But what you can do is from the Solution Explorer, for example, you can click either a solution folder or a folder in the projects. You can select the project itself or just several files. And when you do that, there's the context menu where you can say, okay, look, show me the type dependency diagram. Just for fun, I'm going to take this entire webhooks namespace and webhooks folder and show the type diagram for that. And you will see that's still a lot of classes. The good news is you can zoom on them and you can see what is going on there. And you can filter as well. So if you want to group things by project, for example, you can do that. If you want to group things by namespace, that's also possible. If you want to see injected parameters, for example, you can do that as well. By default, that's enabled. But if you don't want to see anything that is injected and doesn't have a direct relationship, you can also disable that. There's an export button if you want to make this part of your documentation somewhere. But what I think is much cooler is that on the diagram, there's a couple of things that you can do. So first of all, you can change the appearance and maybe copy the names or delete it from the diagram, things like that, and customize whatever is going on. Second of all, when you hover a class, you will see that you get the class definition where it is. You can navigate to where it's defined in code. You can look at all of the references and just go from there if you want. What's quite useful, I think, especially in bigger refactorings, is that you'll also see both based on the thickness of the arrow on the diagram as well as the x1 or ×2 or times whatever in the list here, how many times a certain class is being used in there. So you can use that as well. On the arrows that you see, you will also see where, for example, this relationship comes from. So this relation to space webhook options comes from post configure. And also from here, you can see that I can navigate there. And there's actually 11 references to the options in that method. So I can navigate there and jump to the code, navigate around the code base and see what is going on. So I think that's pretty much it. Very helpful if you are new to a code base and want to see how things fit together. If you want to work on documentation and get like a visual representation of what the code looks like, this is a perfect way to dive in. And I think that's it for diagrams. On to the next one.
Yeah, thanks, Maarten. I think it's now, I'm heading over my phone over to Matthias back.
I have my microphone. Thanks. Khalid was mentioning this looks like an NYC metro station. It just reminded me there's a really cool game about building metros and connections and all those lines. Well, yeah. First, I really wanted to do this. Second, we do have a couple of things actually that aren't even mentioned, I think, in the what's new. So I'm really excited to show you that. Before the release party, I was very nervous because I was just told about those things. But yeah, let's dive in. I will cover some things about C# 12 and .NET 8. Man, I always need to get those numbers right. And we will start with primary constructors. Yeah. So I'm sure you probably have seen that. What I want to show you is that you can easily convert old constructor usages or explicit constructor usages to use the primary one. So really just in one go. I always need to stress this. If you want to do this, it's worth considering doing this for the whole solution. Yeah, if you really want to take advantage of all the new language features. One thing, and I hope, yeah, it does zoom in. I hope you can see this. This little parameter here, the B, is actually a different color than I and S, and that is because the parameter is captured here. So that is the semantic highlighting that I added here as a to-do, just to tell you about it. And that is really just to let you know that this parameter is captured from this method right here. So what is it capturing? I think I cannot dive too much into that, but I hope I get it right. This is terrible because I only have the star run thing in Rider. But what I can tell you is if we start this person right here with age 42, then at first for these two you would actually see 42 just as expected. But once we increase the age, what you would see is that this has increased, but this has not. Yeah, and this is because if we look at the person class right here, is because the parameter is captured twice. So once it's initialized just to the auto property, but once it's captured from the bio property, and that I would say leads to unexpected behavior. It can also lead, of course, to memory leaks or any allocate problems with allocations. What we suggest you here is to replace the capture of age with the appropriate property. There are actually a couple of more cases where this is relevant. For instance, if we look at something like this, we have a derived class and a base class. Base is capturing the servers, but also the derived one. You can actually see this here. So this is captured and this is captured. And you do get the warning again about double capturing. In these cases, what you would need to do is to actually extract this into a property. And let's actually make this public, I think. And once this is done, once there is a property that encapsulate that, then you also get here the quick fix to use the property from the base class. Also very nice. But they are not in all cases we can give you this, let's say, way of quick fixing things. This is a good example because the base class isn't actually capturing that, but we are, let's say, unsure about it, if it's capturing or not. So that's why we still show this this warning right here. And well, in such cases, of course, you could do something like disabling that with a comment, stuff like that, or you, I don't know, completely refactor your code. Yeah. What I forgot here in the example is actually you can switch between the two as you like. So we can also convert back to the explicit constructor. Slightly related is also for empty classes that you may just use for, you know, test code or stuff like that. You can actually also remove the redundant body. So you really just need a semicolon there. And last one is formatting. Here, I think you just try this out by yourself. I think that's the best way. You can go here and then say reformat cleanup, configure code style. Here in this dialog, you can search. I think that only works in Rider, unfortunately. But you can change a couple of, where are those? Primary, yeah, here. Then you can just change those, and they should actually update as you go. In the repository, I actually also put all the formatting settings here, so you can actually also try inline. Next one is collection expressions. Let's dive into this. So before I forget this is one that I'm sure we will see many more updates in the future, hopefully at least. So just to introduce the language feature itself very quickly. So now you can write arrays something like this without the need to actually say or use curly braces and then new int, etc. You don't need that anymore. I think, can I switch back to the old one? Oh, maybe not. I think I saw it in Rider. But anyways, you can also spread those things so to append something. And now let's get into ReSharper and Rider. So for instance, if you have a list something like this, then Alt Enter, and you can actually use the collection expression. One thing that's quite interesting here is I think you see that list at and then 42. So this will automatically be merged into the collection expression. What's not yet merged is this right here with the add range, but that is actually, and I think we might see this in the future as another feature, could also be converted to something like this with the spread operator. I'm very excited for this one. I'm sure it will come at some point. Or are we sure? I think we're sure. Same is where you see those inspections is if you pass a collection to another method. So for instance, like this, looks much cleaner. Yeah, I think. And the last one for collection expressions is this one right here. So right now, this is not fully working yet, but what I want to show you is sometimes we write something like this. Yeah, we want to return an empty collection of ints, let's say. Well, we do have a quick fix to turn this into array empty. You know what? I don't know about others, but I completely dislike this because it's very verbose. Yeah, it doesn't read well. Well, actually, if we write this right here with the collection expression, this is pretty much the same. Okay, I should just use another name here. But this basically compiles to this as far as I know. And, well, I would definitely prefer that. But like I said, I think this is something that will arrive someday in the future as another quick fix, yeah, to just make the code a little bit more concise. Next one is interceptors. Man, I hope those are working because I had issues before in ReSharper. And yes, it's yeah. I think I will skip interceptors for now because this is a bit of a quirk because I also have Rider open on the same solution. So let's continue with type aliases first. Type aliases is also something I didn't hear about it that much before, to be honest. That's one of the features that I was told right before the release party. So, Andre, I really hope I present this in the best way. But let's say we have a class, and at first you think, okay, yeah, I need this complex type here. And suddenly you have this complex type repeated over and over again in the whole class, and it doesn't read very well, right? Well, guess what? Now without enter, you can introduce a type alias. So what this does is for all the occurrences of the same type, it will just introduce a new one. And then I could say, well, I'm bad in naming. I will just use complex type. But you see that every other usage was just updated to use that that new type alias. What's great about this is you can, of course, navigate. So, for instance, you see all the usages of it. Of course, you can also go to the or use the go to type, basically, which offers you to either go to the concrete type or the underlying type, or actually to the alias. What else? We also do have tooltips. Yeah, exactly. So this actually shows you the underlying type, not just complex type. And I think there was one more. Quick fix for refactoring. Okay, so let's say I intentionally commented out that one. Let's say now we still write it with the old way. And guess what? You already see it, I think. This is a little bit transparent, and it also has these 4 dots underneath. And this quick fix tells us, okay, there's a type alias for that to write that much shorter. So you can actually also do this in the whole file, even in the whole project if you want. For that, you would just need to make this global. And I think global to work, I would need to put it up there. But now this quick fix would also, come on, let's try this again. This quick fix would also work in the whole project, yeah, where this is relevant. Andre told me about an interesting thing here, and that is, let's say let's go back to the original version. Let's say you start with something like this, and maybe you're using a tuple type, something like this, which I also often use just locally in a single file. But then at some point you feel like, oh, geez, this has spread to other files as well. So I'm using this tuple type in many other places. So what you can do with that, and it's not that automated yet as it maybe could be, but it's a good tool to move over to that. So with that in place, you would then just say, okay, this looks like maybe I should introduce a new record type or something, just to make the code everywhere a bit more readable again, and not to have this huge complex type. Then you would actually, and I don't know why it's not offering this right now. Yeah, introduce type aliases. Then you could actually preview how does it look like, and then you can kind of convert this into a value type. Maybe not with that, but actually I should have done it with this, with an actual tuple type. And then you could actually convert this into a record type quite easily, and update all usages. Yeah. So I think that's a really cool one. Sorry, I have a lot for C#. Global usings. Again, something really cool. But no, first I will show you extract local functions and disposable. So not global usings yet. This particular one that you will see right now is currently only available in ReSharper. Yeah. So watch this. I'm selecting a bunch of code. And what I want to do is extract this into a local function. So I hit the shortcut to invoke the extract local function of refactoring. And now you see this overlay here, or what should I call it? Placeholder, whatever. But you can actually use arrow keys to put this in the place where it should be. I think this is awesome, because if you've ever extracted a method and chose to move it to a local function, then you know about this dialog which says before this, after that, before return, after return, etc. So this really gives you a good view of where the thing will be, and then you can just confirm with enter. Yeah. So this is really just to showcase things, probably not the most meaningful refactoring, but I hope you get the idea. Oh, Jesus. Disposable warnings. Yeah, that's an interesting one. Someone is laughing. I hear it.
That's me.
I have a special connection with iDisposables. But yeah, anyway, what I want to show you here, and I think it's a very high voted feature, and I think it's not even marked yet as resolved, maybe because there might be some other things following. But that's one of the things I think we didn't mention in the release notes. So what is it? This one right here, you can see creates a class that has native resources. Yeah. And it also has this attribute right here. That attribute is coming from JetBrains annotations. If you don't consume that, I think you want that, because it really gives you some nice things. But anyway, we have annotated that method right here, which basically indicates that the caller needs to dispose the resource. And that is exactly what you can see right here. So local variable is never disposed. And of course, ReSharper quick fix, you can convert this to a using declaration or a statement. Yeah. So to actually fix the issue. Another scenario which probably happens quite often is that you create a resource, but the next method where you pass on the resource is in charge to handle the disposal. So in this case, let's actually keep this fixed. But in this case right here, you can see we still have the warning, but actually we want handle to handle the disposal. So with that, you have another attribute, which basically says, yeah, I'm handling the dispose, and that's it. Yeah. Like I said, I think there will be some more things following. But generally, I think that's a good start, really great start. Go and annotate your methods, your disposables. I think it's worth it. And then maybe I forgot to say this, but as always with such inspections, what you might want is to say, find similar issues in the whole solution. Yeah. So with that way, you would, yeah, maybe you tell us afterwards if you found some places where your resources haven't been disposed. Would be interesting to know, actually. Okay, that's it for disposables. And now I need to, hold on. I hope this works now, because if I'm not mistaken, then I would see some red code right here. Type aliases we had, interceptors I wanted to show. Oh no, I don't need to refresh. That's nice. So interceptors, and you can tell this is Rider because it's dark theme. I just wanted to make this very noticeable. Interceptors is another cool feature. I think most won't need it personally to implement, but it is used by some teams at Microsoft, particularly for ASP.NET, and particularly with AOT projects, to speed things up. I guess, yeah. I didn't read too much into it. I'll be honest. But what they can do is replace your method calls with something that you don't actually wanted to execute, well, or didn't know you're executing. So let's execute this, for instance. This method right here. I hope it does. Yeah. So you can see original, but actually I also only have original one time, and the second one is intercepted. Also with this, just to show you where one example where an instance method is called. Person Rick says hi. Yes, hi, I'm Rick. But again, the second one is intercepted. Rick is busy on a journey with Morty. Anyway. Usually those interceptors are generated from source generators, I would say, although you could also decide to do this kind of stuff where you say, yeah, this file should be intercepted at this line, at this comment. This is exactly what's happening here. We have one interception of the console write line call and one interception of the person instance, yeah, with the say hi. Now, as for the interceptors, what we added here is you see those little icons here, which basically tell you, hey, this method is probably not what you think will be called. Yeah. And particularly, let's say we want to see what does write line. Yeah, this will be the natural way, but this is not happening right here. This is actually not happening. But what's happening is what this little thing right here is doing. And you can see control click, that allows you to navigate, and then you can see what's actually happening. Yeah. Both the same. You can also go to the usages from further down here. I think then let's try this. Will this also work? Yes, this will also work. But I think I still just have one navigation. Yeah, sorry, I'm a bit ill. Okay, that's it for interceptors. Really interesting feature. Goes a bit more into the direction of aspect-oriented programming, actually. And the last one that I forgot, that is global usings. And I'm talking and talking here. So global usings, I will show you in a bigger solution right here. Global usings, you might use them already, but I think people might not know which one should I use to global usings, because is it used that many times that it justifies being moved to global usings? And just for everyone that doesn't know global usings, do I have some here? No, but basically you put your usings into a single place, and then they count for all the other files. So for instance, I could do something like this, and now system is included in all the files. Yeah. But let's go back to the question, which one should I move to global usings? And that you can do with first selecting a couple. Let's say you're considering, adding global usings for those few. Then Alt Enter, and then convert to global usings. And this dialog is insane because what it does is it tells you which of the namespaces that you selected is used how many times, or to what amount in your solution. So for instance, system used about 80% of the time in all the files. So this really makes sense to move into global usings. Yeah. The others down here probably not. Yeah. So I could deselect them. And just because I don't have global usings, I haven't used that feature yet. But if you would be using this already, then you would also have a second pane right here. Let's see, maybe I can show. No, it's difficult to show right now. But then you would have a second pane that shows you. Oh no, here they are. Yeah. Those that are already imported, and you can make suggestions or modifications also on the fly. Yeah, so this also updates down here. Really cool thing. I think this makes global usings very, very usable. And I think that's it. I forgot. This refactoring here with the move to global using is about 4 times faster compared to previous versions, because I think this refactoring right here we already had before in the latest version or in the previous version, but this should now work much faster. Okay, any questions? Sorry, I talked for so long. 20 new messages I see here.
Do you have one more thing?
Should have one
I don't
more.
think there's enough new C# features personally. I think we could add more.
It's crazy. But should I have one more? I lost track maybe of my agenda.
No,
It's
you covered everything.
just joking.
No, it's okay.
That's a lot of cool stuff.
Good,
That was a lot of cool stuff. Like the global using thing is kind of blew my mind. Like I didn't know that existed, and now I learned something. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, who's next?
Let's
Maarten is
move
next.
over to Maarten, and inspections targeting entity framework related issues. Let me just share Maarten's screen. Yeah,
go for it. If it's okay, I'm going to skip entity framework for now because I have more on that in ReSharper a little bit later. And since the inspections are the same, I can just take them along at that point. So what I'll do instead is show a couple of the smaller new things that are in Rider. Well, small, big things, typical usability and quality of life improvements. So first of all, you may know about our inlay hints where you see what the parameter name is when you make a method call and so on. So here you will see that I have a logger.log error with that message parameter. You see that that's an inlay hint, but maybe you don't want that at this position. Maybe you know that if you're logging an error, you know that the parameter is going to be a message. What you can do is use the context menu and say, okay, hide this for log error. And from now on, nowhere where you're using log error, that will be shown anymore. Also in the context menu, we added some options to configure the visibility, or sorry, to configure the inlay hints. So you can go to configure, and that will open the settings and type name hints. And we have a couple of things there where you can specify how visible you want to have, for example, implicitly typed variables, pattern matching expressions, etc. Now, most of those settings were already there, but weren't really super discoverable. So now in the context menu there, you can also say, okay, I want to change this visibility immediately here. So you don't have to go into the settings pane. You can just say, okay, in here, never show that kind of implicit typed variable types there. So that's one of the small things there. Another small big thing that is definitely good for usability. And by the way, if you hear screaming on the background, that's my kid enjoying himself right now downstairs and making a big mess. One more quality of life improvement would be an automated vacuum cleaner to clean up that mess. But in Rider, at least, there's an improvement to how we do solution-wide analysis. So you may know that Rider always tries to infer how things relate, how classes relate, how usages are processed, what kind of errors and warnings are there in your files. And we used to do that at 1 speed. Right now, we gave you the option in the new version to configure how many resources you want to dedicate to that task. So for example, by default, we select moderate, which is a good balance between scanning everything and giving you results and being fast. You can also move to high, for example, if you have many classes or if you expect many warnings or whatever, or you just want to speed things up, you can select high there and solution-wide analysis will run faster. Now, high is, of course, also going to consume more resources on your machine. We also took that into account. So when you start typing, even if you are on the high mode there, we will pause solution-wide analysis at that point, or make it a little bit slower so that we don't interfere with your day-to-day work in that case. So definitely try that out. I think Khalid is next with more of those quality of life improvements.
All right, let's share my screen so folks can see it. So there's a lot of amazing stuff, by the way. I'm learning a lot during the stream, so thanks to the other advocates. This is kind of cool. For my first act here, I have a few quality of life improvements that folks will appreciate. The first one is solution filters. For folks who aren't aware, solution filters is a way to take your existing solution and maybe pare it down to like a working set of projects. This can be helpful for teams that have thousands and thousands of projects. Maybe they're in a mono repo or something like that, or a monolith solution. So you can come in here in your solution view, right click, and now you'll see Save as Solution Filter. You'll get a dialog, and you can create and save that filter. I've already created one, so if I move over to the file system, you can kind of see what it looks like. Well, cancel. I just want to open it. It's a JSON file, and it's the path to the initial solution and then the projects that you want to have as part of that solution filter. We can also open that solution. So I'll just say new window. And then from here, you can see that this is a filtered solution. You have this little icon, but you can also right click and say, well, it's loading right now, but once the solution is loaded, you can come in here and you can either add the project and its project dependencies, which is kind of neat. So if your projects are related to each other, you don't have to think about it. We'll just look at kind of the dependencies and then add those projects for you. But let's see. I'm paying the cost of the demo gods right now for screen sharing. So, all right. I guess it's still loading, huh?
How many code did you write for this demo? Must be insane.
Not really that much.
Oh,
I guess maybe it's
yeah.
the F# stuff. But all right. So yeah, I can come in here and I can remove a project. And that project gets removed from the solution filter. I can go back up here and then say add projects, and that will add all the projects back from the original solution. So if you need solution filters, this kind of makes it a little bit easier to kind of manage and kind of tweak each one. And you can have multiple solution filters in a single solution. So that's pretty cool. All right, back to the features. I'll go back to the solution. The other quality of life improvement, I know macOS folks, maybe folks on Linux don't necessarily like maybe having this main toolbar. I personally like it. It's pretty cool, but to each their own. You can come in here, go to appearance, and you can hide the main toolbar. So now you kind of have this nice sleek look to Rider, and it's just kind of a simple window. If you need it back, which I want it back, I feel uncomfortable right now without the main toolbar. You can come back in here, check the main toolbar, and it'll come back. So again, there's a lot of nice stuff up here, but some folks like to keep their environment super clean, super minimal. They can do that. Another thing that most folks don't understand, I learned this from Maarten a long time ago. If you're in any tool window, you can always type to filter. So here I can say features, but that might not be super clear to a lot of people. So we've added keyboard commands. So you can press Command F, and now you can search as well. So that's kind of helpful. You can also come in here to the kebab menu, and you can also trigger the file search or the speed search by clicking this menu item. It's not clickable right now because I have it open, but if I was to escape, come back, you can see that it kind of pops that up. The last thing I have in this section is macOS people. Sorry, Windows people, you don't get this, but we've done a little design language updates. So the new Rider icon fits kind of in this macOS icon look and feel. So no more jaggedy icon. It's all smooth corners from here. So that's it for this section. I'm going to pass it back to Sasha, and she can kind of get to the next advocate.
Oh, yeah, that was cool. And we're now moving to Matt. Again, Matt. Let me share your screen again.
I'm back.
And let's hear what Matt has for us.
Yeah, this one should hopefully be a nice quick one. It's a feature which Rider is picking up from ReSharper, and it's got a few new extra features in there as well. This is all about unit testing. And so I've got a simple class here, calculator class. It just adds stuff, it multiplies stuff. It doesn't do anything terribly exciting. But what we've got now in Rider is something we had in ReSharper before, this Alt-Enter and create unit test. We now get a dialog here, and here we can actually help you create a unit test, build a scaffolding for that. You can choose which project you want it in, which test framework you want to use, and if you don't have a test framework installed already, we'll add it from NuGet for you as you go. I've already got NUnit in here as it is. I can create a test class here, and then the new feature is this little tick box here, generate test content from AI, and so we'll do that in just a sec. We've also got some advanced options. I can choose where the file goes, what the namespace is, and even what live template, what file template I use to actually generate it there. And so once you click OK, Rider will go off, it'll generate the code for us. It'll then send the information to the AI service if you've got the AI assistant built in, and it will then actually generate the code for you. So it sort of starts it off with the NUnit template that you've got enabled, and then it receives a whole heap load of tokens for such a simple class, and it should generate us some nice code. And any second now, we'll get a nice file. There it is. Look at that. That's great. For such a small class, we've got some great tests going on there, a whole bunch of different test cases to add stuff, a whole bunch more then to sort of multiply things as well. So that's really useful. And if we go back to our calculator here, we've also got a nice little feature here in the Navigate to menu. We've now got related tests. And if I click that, it'll take us to the calculator test. It can do this in a couple of different ways. Based on the name, calculator test, we've got a suffix of test, so it can do that. It can do it with this test of attribute. And we've also got an annotations attribute as well, test subject. If you do test subject, type of calculator, it can associate the two, and then Rider and ReSharper can use that for navigation to related tests. So there we go, nice and quick. I'm done. I'm going to pass back to Sasha.
That was really quick. All right. So meanwhile, I want to ask folks who are watching us now in the chat, please share with us what is your favorite feature in this release. We will be really interested to hear that. And while you are typing, moving the screen to Matthias, right? You ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Here we go.
Yeah, my favorite is probably unit testing, and also the next one that I'm going to present. It's actually crazy how quick Rider caught up with ReSharper having that, with the switching between unit tests. And also, if one of you was using the TestCorp or TestLinker plugin, then I think you want to try this out. Yeah. Okay, so I will talk a little bit about debugging. First one is Predictive Debugger. I think that's the same story as with unit testing. Matt did a good job actually there rescheduling the unit testing part, because now I can say both in the same sentence. Hey. So Predictive Debugger, we also introduced this for ReSharper first in the last version. Rider now also has that. It works a bit differently. I won't go into details, but I would ask you to check out the blog post on that. So it basically, or I can actually say it works more in an interpretation way than actually instrumenting on executing the code. But let's take this test here as an example. I think that's a great snippet to showcase the whole thing. Here on the left, you can see we are in a method. I have a breakpoint. And this little bar right here, this tells me how far predictions went. Yeah. So without actually executing the code, we can make predictions what will actually happen. Yeah. So for instance, here with this for each, we can also go through the iterations, and you see those two Boolean expressions here. They will update as I go. At some point, we actually do have a match where both evaluate to true. Then also this statement is no longer muted. So just to show you this again. So this right here is muted, so it's not executed. But for the fifth, or actually sixth iteration, this is actually executed. Down here, you also have this little indicator which tells you if an expression or statement will throw an exception. You also have this indicator on the left, so just to let you know, hey, here, it depends. If your code goes beyond the viewport, then I think you will be lucky to have this on the left as well. But yeah, you can see the exception that is going to be thrown as an inlay hint, and then on Windows, I hope I don't say something wrong, but I'm like 95% sure. I haven't tried it on Windows, but it should also work with live edits. Yeah, so I'm on a Mac, so I can't show you that right now, but it should work with live edits. What's also really cool, I think, is if you remember these little inlay hints right here, these two. Yeah, I think they are also quite improved because of that. Because with the predictions, you can actually say if your let's give me a second. I will just run another test here, and then I can show you what I mean. Because then we should stop. Hey, was it executed? No. Debug. Come on, let's debug. Okay, now I'm debugging. And now let's say you want to run cursor to here, or run to cursor. Yeah. I think we switched the naming here at some point. But now you can also immediately see, hey, this won't happen actually. Yeah. In the context of the current execution of that method, I won't reach that line. And so these two, or at least the first one, will be much more reliable if you know, yeah, I'm actually returning from that method here already. If you've seen the predictive debugger in ReSharper already, then you know we have more data inlay hints over there. But I do hope, I'm sure at some point we will also have these data inlay hints right here. So just as an example, then to have something like input 42 also here to tell you what is kind, what is outcome, and also to highlight what value is returned. What I can also show you right without restarting the debug right here is we do have a new button up here which does the resume part. Yeah, now we have two. I think many people kind of miss that up here because you start from here. Maybe you also want to continue from here. Well, now it's there. The old button will still do the restart debug or restart run, whatever you've chosen before, but you also have the resume button up there. And the last thing about debugging is drumstick. Is the modules view right here. This is something, yeah. I mean, I personally, meanwhile, converted fully to macOS. This is something that I really, really missed from the ReSharper and Visual Studio times. Just to know which modules are being loaded, which is a good example here. JetBrains. You can filter down that list, see where it originates from. I can imagine at some point it would be cool to also see when was this file generated, because I remember so many times when an assembly was not updated and I was still using the old assembly. So for such cases, it's really cool to have this modules view right here, see what's being loaded in which version, And yeah, load order. I haven't had a need for that personally, but yeah, know it's there. It can be helpful. Okay, that's it for debugging. I think I'm done. And Khalid has one more thing for debugging. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I guess, am I up next? So let's share my screen
Yeah.
and then we can kind of go from there. But a lot of people are starting to use Docker. Docker clearly is kind of a really useful tool for a lot of folks. But people build their application, they'll run the container, and then the container process fails for some reason, and they're not really sure why, and they'd like to debug that. So one of our developers has worked tirelessly to kind of make this experience happen. So here I have a really simple application. I know I'm the best at writing .NET. Please comment, chat, calm down. I know it's great. But so I have this really simple .NET application. I've containerized it. Let's go ahead and run it. And so what's happening right now is I'm building this application, I'm creating the container, and you can see that, yeah, the output's great. But there might be a problem. So you can now go into the services tool window, find the container, click attach debugger, and we'll bring up the attach to process window. Since we know this is a container, to get the debugging process to work, we need to install JetBrains remote debugging tools. So I'll click the install remote debugging tools. And so we'll connect to the container right now. We'll download the debugging tools in there, and we'll also create like a Rider debugger sidecar so we can like debug the process. But now you can see that I'm connected to the Docker container, and we found this .NET executable in there. So I can click that .NET executable, click attach the .NET debugger, and if everything goes okay, we should hit that breakpoint that's in my while loop. So give it a second. Demo gods.
I thought you were talking about my iPad, the sidecar. Like, huh?
Yeah. So here we go. We've hit the breakpoint now inside of the container. You can tell that we're debugging inside of Docker right now because the debug icon here shows the little Docker whale. And yeah, it's the same debugging experience that you'd expect anywhere with .NET applications. So I can hit resume and we'll hit that breakpoint again. But I can also stop the debugging process. The thing is, when you stop debugging, which I'll do here, the container is still operating. Like, we don't stop the process. We just attach the debugger. So you can go in here and stop the container. And that's really it. So if you're working with containers, you're working with Docker, and something just isn't working quite right in your .NET process within that container, just know with Rider, you can attach a debugger and kind of work out the kinks there. So that's it. Thanks to Revolve for working on that. It's kind of an amazing experience, and I hope folks really try it out. So that's it for me. I'll pass it back to the next person.
Yeah, thank you, Khalid. So many stuff, and we have way more to talk about. And right now is the queue for sharing more light on the game dev features. And I think Matt is going to be providing more information on them. Matt, do you have a screen to share for me?
I do. We're good to go. Let's just.
I
should have a screen to share.
Don't
Where's my
see
screen gone?
any.
No, it's not there yet.
Why has my screen disappeared? Okay, well, let's just share my screen again.
Okay, yeah, I see it now. Let me try to add it. Yeah.
There we go. Lovely. So awesome. Yes, I'm going to do some game dev stuff then, and I'm going to stick with the debugging theme as well. So I'm going to show some interesting debugging stuff for Unity. I've got my little Unity sample app here, and there's a couple of cool things that we've added for debugging in Unity as well to make your life a little bit easier. So I got my game running here. I've got my Unity project going here. Let me just see. Are you awake? It's not scrolling. Come on, scrolly. And there we go. We've got a breakpoint, which is resolved. If I just hit the space bar on this, we should hit the breakpoint. Don't need to worry about the code. The code's not the important part here. What we've got here, though, is texture debugging. So we've got an object here with a script, which is got this texture 2D here and a view button next to it. And if I click that view button, we get a new pop-up in the debugger, which is going to load the texture for me. Is just talking to Unity right now. It'll go off and it'll grab the texture and it'll show it in this pop-up, and it gives us some tooling. Hello. Demo gods again. So while that's slowly loading, as I say, in the debugger down here, we've got the texture 2D property. This is the texture that we want to look at. We can click the view link, and that shows us the pop-up. And hopefully, any second now, there we go. That took a little while. It brings up the texture, and we can then sort of see what's going on. It's a great way to sort of see what's going on the inside of your game there. If you've got a texture loaded, we get to see what kind it is. Well, whether it's a 24-bit whatever. You can zoom in, zoom out. We can work with the image, sort of show it normal size, fit it to the window, and so on. So that's a nice way to work with debugging and looking at your textures. Next thing that is really quite nifty is if we go to the wave, where am I going to now? I want to just find my debug.log. There we go. And what we can do here is if we create a breakpoint here, add a breakpoint. If I right click on this to show properties, there we go. I can uncheck my suspend execution, and then I can create something which would be, tell you what, instead of doing that, look at this link at the top here. This is useful. I didn't mean to get rid of that breakpoint. I wanted to keep that one. I want to click that, restore previous breakpoint, and now this is actually going to remember there. So if I right click on it now, it'll show me that I've unchecked suspend execution, and I've got this evaluate and log item set, and we've got spawning agent and the agent instance name. If I swap back to my game now and start playing, start player 1, level 1. Come on. And start the wave. If I swap back over here and go to my debug window, we're now going to be able to see down at the bottom here, hopefully, scroll down to the bottom. We should be able to see messages as it's spawned to show us then that those are output. They're not being output to there. But the important part is that instead we've actually got the output being shown here in the console log. So this is a new thing there. The trace points normally output the information to the debug window, but what we've done for Unity is we've actually been able to send it over to Unity itself there. So instead of having a call to debug.log there, we can actually send it via Rider. So for example, here we've got this debug.log, but it's commented out. I've actually sent it through as a trace point. The other nice little thing for breakpoints is if you right click on a line here, you can add a breakpoint, add a conditional breakpoint, and then you can add a pause point as well. Pause points are really cool features of Unity, of Rider and Unity. Because what normally happens is when you've got when you hit a breakpoint, is that Unity will pause because it's a C# application. The debugger freezes the whole application, and come on, restart, start the wave again. And you can't do anything with the editor. You can't interact with it. You can't have a look at the nodes that are going on there or anything. What we can do instead is add a pause point. So when an enemy is spawned here in our spawn agent method, we actually flip Unity into pause mode. You can see up here now, if I just zoom in on that again, that the pause button has been activated, and we can now sort of navigate around and have a look at all the different objects that are going on here, and we can see our objects. In fact, if I just kind of leave that running, and if I sort of navigate around a bit, we should be able to see that. We've hit another pause point, but I could then select my object if I go back to the scene rather than the game. Oh dear, properly zoomed out. And come on, Come on, you want to do this? Well, you can interact with the editor and keep going is basically the point. So let's just leave it as that. Hit pause point again. Let's come out of pause mode and let's close Unity down because it's with that and streaming, it's causing trouble. And let's move on and show a couple of other useful things. If I switch over to another item, where are we? That's the one I want. We've done a whole lot of work with the UI toolkit as well in this release here. So we're now supporting the TSS file. So you can see here we've got a theme file open. It recognizes all the properties that are available there as well. We've got the completion, as you'd expect. We can have work for we understand the files that are there, the properties that are being used. We understand all of Unity's properties that have been added in recent releases. We've still got support for USS files. We've got like the var function there. We can click through to that to find the actual property that's been defined. You can do find usages on that, and you can see where that's being used as well in all of your USS files, which is pretty nifty. And we've also done a bunch of work with UXML files. So for example, here we've got main menu.uxml. We've got a button file there. I can control click on button, and that'll take me to the definition of the UI element and part of Unity's code, which is rather nice. If I've got a custom item, this round chooser, for example, I can do the same. I can control click on that, and it'll take me to where I've defined a custom element. It doesn't do much, but that's fine. And again, I can do find usages on this, and we'll find its usages both in code, such as here in the UXML factory, and also in the UXML file itself. Even better, we recognize when it's being used in one of the queries as well. So we can see that it's being used in a query here. We've got our magic strings for the names of the items. So we can see here we've got a button from main menu XML. The button names are over on the right here, start, settings, and exit. I'll just jump back to there. I'll go code completion. It'll show me all the named buttons that I can use in my query here, start, settings, and exit. And because we know it's a round chooser here, then I will actually show the weapon chooser there as well. So we're helping you with your UI element stuff, which is very useful. Next thing to show you, if I swap back to this one, is a really cool feature for working with shader files. Now, one of the problems that we face with shader files is definition symbols, compile time symbols. So things like, hash if. You can see here we've got this Unity fixed is half. If that's set, then we do something. If it's not set, then we can't analyze what's in that code, in that block there, because it could be anything. It could be a redefinition of a function. It could be a duplicate information. It's really hard to sort of be able to handle this. And we can't handle everything all at once because the complexity sort of explodes. But shader files have got a sort of key feature here. You'll notice that we've got some items here which are colored differently. So Unity fixes half is one color. That's just a standard preprocessor define. But we've got blue, red, and green here highlighted differently. If we scroll up a little bit, then we've got this hash pragma. We've got a shader feature here, which defines 3 keywords, blue, red, and green. These are features where allow us to do sort of conditional compiling, conditional behavior, and these can be set on and off at runtime using shader APIs. And we've got code here which is relying on that. But as you can see, some branches are are highlighted and active and offer code completion. So if I do that, I've got all my usual sort of code completion, and others like down here, which are not. This shader API desktop is also a keyword, but that's not there. Now down in the breadcrumb bar at the bottom here, we've got a little widget which allows us to sort of change what API we're using, DirectX, Vulkan, Metal, and so on, and also whether we're targeting desktop and mobile. And as we change those, you can see that the code analysis changes as well. So what we're actually doing is we're telling the code analysis engine that in this case, once desktop is selected, the shader API desktop function key is active. And here now it's not active, so we can work with that. We can also do the same with our blue, red, and green items as well. So I can activate different ones and work with it like that. So it changes then which branch of the code is actually active. We can also do this from the Alt-Enter menu. So I can enable this keyword shortcut. And then if I go here and enable this one, then we actually see now that we're also highlighting green as a conflict. Only one of these keywords can be active at a time there, and so we actually see that green is being suppressed here, and I should be able to Alt enter on this and disable the item there. So a very useful way for working with your shader files and understanding which branch is going to be executed under what conditions, and getting the analysis and the syntax highlighting that you'd expect in those cases. That's probably it for Unity. There's a couple of other things in there that's useful. We've done code completion of semantics in HLSL files, fix up some error messages with dots, and also some of the URL help. But then we've got a couple of things then for Unreal and C++ as well. The first one for Unreal is this pretty innocuous little checkbox here: ignore precompiled header files. This is really, really useful if you want to be able to have code completion in Rider, analysis in Rider, recognize only symbols that have been brought in by explicitly included header files. So if you've got a precompiled header file, that can include almost the world and everything, and it's great. But if you then on your build server disable precompiled header files and only use the explicit ones, you can get build failures. So what you can actually do is tell the analysis engine that you want to work in this mode as well. So you get the benefits of precompiled header files when building locally, but you know that you're not going to break the build when it's working remote on the remote server. And secondly, again, to work with inactive branches like we've got here, we've got a hash if on a preprocessor symbol. Then we can also work here with code completion. So if I invoke completion there, we will now enable you to do completion on items that are in global scope, which can be a big help. We can't do full analysis here, but we can kind of help things and make things a little bit easier there. So we've got some completion there. I can do control-click navigation to player ID. It doesn't quite know what it is. It can't do a full resolve on that, but it can give you some suggestions. So if I go to player ID here, I know if I do find usages, what we'll also show is the usual set of find usages. Let me just drag that up a little bit. And if I just kind of collapse those down a little bit, we've got read access, we've got write access, and now down at the bottom, once the presentation assistant disappears, we've also got our usages in inactive code, and that's our code that we've got there. Again, steps towards helping you work with preprocessor blocks, which are usually deactivated. And I think that's all I want to show really for game dev. But if you're doing any kind of game development, get Rider, it's brilliant. Who's next?
Thanks, Matt. Now I think Khalid is going to talk a bit about all of the awesomeness of F# 8 support in Rider.
Okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
So yeah, everybody knows .NET 8 was just released. So Matthias went over some amazing C# 12 features, but we know .NET isn't just C#, it's also F#. So there's a lot of F# goodness in this release of Rider, thanks to some of the .NET 8 stuff. So first, I want to thank one of our developers, Alexi. He kind of helped me a lot with these demos. He actually works on a lot of these F# features. So shout out to him. Thank you so much. So one of the first things I noticed kind of looking through the F# release notes is there's a new way to kind of define extension methods in F#. And it's using this extension attribute. So we have some analysis to kind of tell you whether you're using the attribute correctly. And in this case, we're just showing that, hey, you have the extension attribute on this static member, but you also have it on the type level. So this is redundant. Currently, we don't have a quick fix to remove that redundancy, but we know that that's something we're going to add in a future release. But any C# person can kind of see that this is really similar to how you would declare extension methods in C#. So that's pretty cool. The other thing that's kind of a big feature of this latest version of F# is shorthand lambda expressions. So everybody knows F# is fun, and that's how you kind of declare lambda expressions. But now there's a shorthand syntax. So underscore dot whatever will give you kind of the shorthand syntax. Matthias said earlier in the C# example, you can apply a quick fix either on the line that you're currently on, but you can also apply this to different levels. So I can do it across the file as well. I know a lot of F# folks, eagle-eyed F# folks know that this syntax is also available. Currently, there's some edge cases around when not to remove the parentheses. So we're still kind of working out all those edge cases, but in future releases, you should see that this quick fix, in most cases, will really remove those parentheses. So keep that in mind, but shorthand lambda expressions are a pretty cool feature. Another big thing that you'll see in the new version of F# is static members and interfaces. So now you can use the static keyword and we'll kind of recognize that syntax. We also have static let bindings. So you can now do things like static members on your types, and you can see me using it here, which is kind of cool. So another feature of F# that I know a lot of C# folks are kind of used to with records and assignment, but now we have like a shorthand syntax for assigning values. So before, this is kind of what this looks like, but with a quick fix, you can actually replace it to kind of a shorter hand syntax. So that's pretty neat. Also, here's another example. But yeah, you'll notice it's a lot more terse. It's a lot tighter. So check that out. We have those quick fixes. We have those new features of F# that kind of make writing code a little bit more succinct. Finally, we get F# people. You got to give it up to the C# folks. Because this next feature actually is inspired from C#. I know a lot of people always say, oh, F#, C# is just copying our features and stuff like that. But this one actually comes from C#. If you're using raw string literals, especially if you've done C#, you know that you can actually define the number of curly bracket placeholders by adding additional $signs. So this feature is coming to F# now. So in our case, we have $signs, and you can see that the placeholder for class attribute is actually the one that's being replaced from up here, whereas title is actually a placeholder. So if I was to change this, we can now see that title is erroring out and that there's too many curly brackets. So that's pretty cool. And since I'm here, we're talking about raw string literals. You might notice that I have syntax highlighting here for HTML. So I'm using language injections, which is a feature of Rider. And I'm using this comment to actually tell this code that this string is HTML. You can also use the string syntax attribute, and we'll define it here. And right now, we know that this parameter being passed in is going to be HTML. So I'm not sure why I have this, but yeah, there's that. Put that back. But additionally, too, this is a method that's being declared up here. We're using this attribute. So any string being passed into it is going to be HTML as well, which is kind of cool. So you don't have to add this attribute everywhere. Anywhere it's used, you'll automatically get those language injections. And you can also use the language injection attribute that comes from JetBrains annotations, which Matthias showed earlier. So that's it for F# features. Again, thank you to Alexei. He did a great job here. And thanks to the JetBrains team that works on these F# features. It's pretty amazing. The next thing I want to show, web features. So we're going to hop back into ASP.NET Core. If you're working with .NET templates, especially with .NET 8, you likely notice that there's like a new web API template. If you were to create a new project using that web API template, you're likely going to notice that there's a new .htp file there. What this .htp file allows you to do is define web requests so that you can use them in tests, either manual or you could automate them. The thing is, in Visual Studio, they're using a syntax that comes from VS Code. JetBrains has its own syntax, but being good ecosystem partners, we felt like teams will want to work in Visual Studio and ReSharper and Rider, and we want to respect those choices. So we went ahead and implemented the @ variable as well. So now you can share these .htb files between Visual Studio users and Rider users as well. That's pretty cool, right? Yeah, give me a thumbs up there, folks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate your feedback. So the next thing we're going to look at is identity API endpoints. So I want to say that Auth0 actually has this great blog post from Andrea, who talks about the new authentication authorization endpoints that has been added to .NET 8. As many folks know, Rider users know that we have an endpoints tool window. This kind of lets you exercise any endpoint within your application. But within ASP.NET Core, there's a lot of times that you can map a bunch of endpoints that maybe aren't super clear that they're there, but they are. So in terms of identity, there is a set of brand new authorization and authentication endpoints. So if you're using Map Identity API, we'll actually discover those endpoints now, and you can see that they show up in the endpoints tool window. So you can test these with our HTTP client. You'll see them here. You'll see what HTTP methods are being used for those endpoints as well. So that's pretty cool. And finally, the thing that I really appreciate with this release is more code completion places for your endpoints. So if you're using HTTP client, we'll actually show you what endpoints are available for your HTTP client to call within your application's context. So this pulls endpoints from your entire solution. So if you're working in a big solution with multiple projects, multiple APIs, you'll see all these endpoints. The cool thing is, which you'll see in the method above, you can actually define this code completion anywhere within your code base and within custom methods. So by installing JetBrains annotations, you just put string syntax, and you also put the HTTP method that you're looking for. So here I can get the same code completion as well for a custom method. So install JetBrains annotations, start applying these across your code base, and it'll just make it easier for your team to kind of test this stuff out. So that's pretty cool. And I think that's it for this part. I'm going to throw it back to Sasha, and we'll move on to the next advocate.
Khalid, I think you have one more, because we jumped over all-in-one Diff viewer. If you want, you can already do central package management, then we don't have to switch.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. So
is that possible?
Yeah, let's do central package management. So a lot of folks probably have a few NuGet packages in their solution, right? Package management is both a gift and a curse to a lot of people. So in .NET 8, actually in I think .NET 7, maybe 6, central package management was introduced, which kind of allows you to create this directory.packages.props file at the root of your solution. So now you can manage package versions centrally. No surprise, central package management. But so you can define these here, but we've went ahead and added the ability to have code completion here as well. So if I wanted to add a new package, I can do that, and you can see we have code completion, which is super cool. So yeah, that's central package management. That should make it a lot easier for you folks to kind of manage all your dependencies in one place and kind of share them across your solution. So yeah, I think that's it for me now, right?
Yeah,
Another
thanks,
thing. Yeah, thanks. Another thing I have not converted, unfortunately, but I'm so eager, actually. I never get to it.
Yeah.
I think I'm next.
Yeah.
Am I? Yeah. Okay, so one more thing about The first one is Bicep, actually. So forget you've seen this. Bicep. So we added initial support for Bicep. Let's see, because the first time I tried this, I think it installed a plugin. You will see this once you open a Bicep file, and then just press install, press yes all the time. I think there were 2 confirmations. I don't remember why, but I think you will see it. And then you get, an initial version, pretty good initial version of Bicep, code completion, code highlighting. This is all, as far as I know, I just briefly read it in the description, but it should be based on the LSP for Bicep. Does it mention? Yeah, LSP-based, resolve and completion. So yeah, give it a try. Lets you complete stuff like this here, the name, for instance, and I think I just found 1 bug already. Or I mistyped. That is also always a possibility. But you also have completion for these. I'll be honest, to me, it looks weird looking versions that you add the date there, or at least I think that's how it's working. Yeah, try it out, give us some feedback. I think it's great to have that finally. I know a lot of people were asking for it, and let's see where we can take it from there. And the next thing I want to show you is actually here. It's the all-in-one diff view. I thought we already enabled that also for regular Git logs, but I think that's not the case. So in this case, so there's my little project here, and what I did was navigating through pull requests that I have on GitHub. So let's just use, which one did I had before? I don't want to risk anything that in the next one it doesn't work, but see, what? This is impossible. But anyway, it also works here. So once you click on one of the changes, what you see is that the preview here is it's a bit like this infinite scrolling. Yeah, just that the change set is probably not infinite. If it is, then there's something wrong. But if you scroll, you see currently I'm still in this verified text file. At some point, I'm going to another verified text file, another one. Soon there's also a C# file, actually. So you scroll continuously through the changes without having to switch on the left-hand side. Yeah, all-in-one diff view should be enabled by default. What I personally, little gotcha at the first is the settings that you previously had up here are now hidden in behind this little cog wheel. So for instance, I usually always do the collapse unchanged fragments, just so you know it's still there. That's it from my side. And I think now, yeah, Sasha says, who's next?
Hey, I get to decide. All right. Thanks a lot, Matthias. And I think it's time to shed some light on the plugins updates. And I think, Maarten, here you go, right? Let me only
Yeah,
share
all right. I
Yes.
should be visible, right?
Yes. Now you.
All right, let's do this. So yeah, I want to talk a little bit about all of the plugin updates that have gone into Rider. So one of the plugins that a lot of people have been using in the past is now bundled. So if you're using Entity Framework in your projects, you will see that if you right-click, for example, the project file, you will see that there's now an Entity Framework core nodes where you can do things like adding a migration, removing the last migration, generating a SQL script, updating or dropping your database, or even scaffolding a database context. So for example, if you would go into one of the classes that you have there, and we would add a new property to this table that we have there, and let's say tests. What I could do is go in here, click the Entity Framework Core menu, say Add Migration, and you will see that I now have the ability to give this a name. So for example, add test column. I can pick the project for my migrations, the startup project, pick the database context. So if you're using multiple database contexts, you can also select between whatever is there. Pick the migrations folder. Very useful if you're doing the first migration and nothing has been scripted yet. That's definitely a good one to put everything in the right place. And then you can decide where you want to build using debug or pick a specific target framework or whatever. Now, if you click OK, Rider will script all of that for you and make sure that the migration is being added. If you are a command line person or you just want to know what is going on behind the scenes, all of the Entity Framework Core plugin dialogues, they have this preview button where you can see what the commands is that will be executed in the background. So this is already a long one, but you will see that .NET will run with EF migrations adds, specify the project, specify the migration name, etc. So if you just want to learn what the command line tool would invoke, this is a good way of learning that based on the visual dialogue that we have in there. I would say if you're an Entity Framework user, do explore whatever is there. It's quite useful to not have to dive into the command line if you don't know the commands. And it's definitely useful to do quick updates or dropping the database to a specific migration, for example. So all of the migrations here will also be available. So if I want to downgrade my database to the initial migration that I had, I can do that there as well. More plugin updates are in performance. So as you may know, Rider comes with a couple of performance plugins that we have. So we have two profilers, dotTrace and dotMemory, that you can use in your application. And we also have dynamic program analysis that runs all the time. So whenever you run your application, you will see that in the status bar, there's going to be this triangle, and that one will give you information about, for example, memory usages or memory issues that it found in your application, database issues. And in the new version of Rider, when you have ASP.NET Core or Razor pages or Razor View components in your application, you will see that we also flag, for example, slow Razor pages in this case. So if you look at that, you will see that this index model.onGet page actually took 7.2 seconds to execute. So you can immediately navigate from here and try to investigate why this specific page model has been slow, for example. Couple of other updates to plugins. So this is like profiling all the time, but it's a minimal profiler just to give you an idea of something might be wrong. We have a full-blown profiler in Rider as well. So if you click the kebab menu there, you can say that you want to profile, for example, the running process or profile some of the other projects that are there. There's also the option in the menu to, under the run menu, say that you want to profile, for example, using timeline profiling or one of the other options that are there. We did change some of the configuration options that are available. So for example, for timeline profiling, which I would recommend if you just want to figure out what is going on in the application, you can now specify the sampling rates. So the way profiling works is typically we sample every second in this case. By default, we take 1,000 samples of what is going on to get an idea of what's going on, what is running in the application, how long does a specific method call take, and so on. But if you want to be more detailed there, you can go up to 8,000 samples per second. So that's configurable now. With timeline profiling, we also try to collect allocations. And we try to collect native allocations as well. It's not a memory profiler, but we do try to make it better for you and give a hint at whether there could be a memory problem, for example. And by specifying the allocation sampling rate here, you can say, for example, that every 100 kilobytes that are allocated, I want to grab a sample. That is now also configurable. And last but not least, this one is actually pretty interesting as well. Rider also downloads symbol files when you are using the profiler. So if you're using any third-party libraries or maybe .NET framework codes or things like that, we will fetch the symbols so that you can look into what is going on behind the curtain. But we now have the option to download everything in the background as well, and this is now enabled by default. So when you do the profiling, we will actually download the symbol files in the background so that the moment you need them, the moment you want to start inspecting things, you can see what is going on there. And then for the last demo, that's actually not really a plugin, but I do think it's very noteworthy to talk about that one. I'm going to switch to my macOS machine, because a lot of people have been asking for this. We have already released dotTrace on macOS previous time around. But this release, we actually have dotMemory on macOS as well. So if you run it on your Mac, you can go in there. You will see that everything kind of looks and feels like the dotMemory you may know from Windows. So you can start a new process. You can attach to a running process and see what is going on. You can specify all of the options that are there, like sampling, or you want to track full allocations. And you can also look at previously opened workspaces. So I profiled this application beforehand, and you can go in there. You can actually look at what the profiling run looked like, what generations of memory objects were allocated in. You can compare snapshots. A lot of things are in there. Not everything you may be used to from Windows is in there yet. But if you want to do memory profiling on macOS and Linux, that is now definitely possible. So do give that a try. And then I will hand it over back to Sasha to introduce the next topic.
Thanks a lot, Maarten. We're actually going back to Khalid.
All right, let's get my screen up there. It's still exciting to see Maarten on Mac, by the way. I'm gonna throw that out there. So yeah, I guess in my previous segment we were talking about central package management. You know, packages are kind of core to a lot of projects, but you know, we don't live in a nice world. Sometimes there's vulnerabilities. Sometimes there are people trying to attack us. Today, with this current release of Rider, we'll actually surface checkmarks, which are vulnerability checks for particular packages. So I have a really, really old version of JSON.NET installed. You know, everything has vulnerabilities, but this is a really, really old version. This is 5.0. We'll actually surface those problems right in the IDE. So this warning comes from a NuGet restore. But if you go to the NuGet window and look at this package as well, before you install a package, we'll also show you the warning as well. So let me pick an older version, and you can see the you know, the security advisory. You can go to that link, open up the browser, see what exactly the vulnerability is for each package. So this should keep you and your you know, your applications and your team and infrastructure safe. Just a little nice little nod to security. So there's that. Check that out. The last thing I really have to demo is DevContainers. So for folks who kind of work in large teams, large, you know, sprawling applications, maybe you have big infrastructure, maybe you have really sensitive intellectual property that you want to secure. DevContainers gives you a way to build a remote development environment through a specification, and then share that within the code so that any new team member can kind of look at that file, start a new remote development environment, and just kind of get started right away. So this is what a dev container file looks like. It's a JSON file. It lives in a dev container folder at the root
It looks
of your
like
solution.
bicep.
Yeah, I think this is a Microsoft specification. So Microsoft really likes JSON. So, but yeah, this is a dev containers file. You can see the name of the solution here. You can select a base image to kind of build your solution off of. But dev containers also have features. So if you need Git within your dev environment, if you need .NET, here I'm using Docker inside of Docker. So if I'm doing something like a distributed application, or maybe I'm doing the latest .NET Aspire solution, I can do that here. I can also forward ports. I can set up the requirements for my development environment. And I can also run some post create commands. So this is really awesome for teams who maybe spend a lot of time onboarding people and having them set up their environment. This is super quickly. So, or this makes it super quick to kind of do that. So in this file, you notice this gutter icon. You can come up here. You can create a new dev container and clone from the Git source. But if you kind of want to avoid that and just kind of mount the files that are locally available, you can do that. You can also manage all of the backends that are currently on your machine as well. But let me go ahead and start this. I'm hoping that it shows up on this machine, or on this screen, but if not, I'll drag it over. But you can see that we're basically going out, finding the images, building the remote development environment locally on Docker. And then once that finishes, you can always select which IDE product that you want to use. I'm just going to use Rider because this is a Rider. This is a Rider release party. Why would I pick any other IDE? That'd be weird. So I'm going to hit continue. And right now we're starting our product called JetBrains Gateway. And we're starting the Gateway client. And as soon as that kind of spins up, we'll see a new IDE kind of pop up here. So somebody said I should mask the tech gods with a coffee break. So I'm going to pretend.
Can I just mask the tech break with, what is the name of that container?
Lucid Ellis. Oh my God. Whoa.
What are you trying to say here?
Dude, this is couldn't have scripted it better. It's like it's crazy.
Am I a random name inside a dev container, inside a Docker naming file or something?
Maybe it's like, it's weird, but this did show up on the different screen, but since I have a filtered solution, which I demoed earlier, and a regular solution, you can do that. So I'll just select the full solution. Not that there's really anything different. All right. Need to drag this over. Let's drag this over. So now you can see the dev container is starting up on my machine. Things are loading. My fans are kicking on because I'm screen sharing and creating a container all at the same time. But yeah, you can kind of see it's the Rider experience that you're probably familiar with. There's still some features that are kind of limited right now, but we're working on bringing them on. One of the things people are probably looking forward to using with Gateway is the AI assistant. That doesn't work currently, but will work. So yeah, here it is, just loading, waiting, demo gods. I think I'll take another sip of my coffee.
Khalid, why didn't you use DevContainers name from the agenda? That would have been so funny. Lead code writing.
Yeah, that would have been
disappointed.
So yeah, these projects are just loading up, and you can kind of see that we have the same experience that you would expect from using Rider on your local machine. So Matt, you worked on Gateway. Are there any things that folks should know about this kind of experience?
Yeah, so the whole idea behind Gateway is to try and give you the local experience, but with everything hosted remotely. Here, everything remotely means running on a Docker instance somewhere. But basically, the IDE runs on the Docker instance, and then we've got a local client which runs on your local desktop, and it talks to the two, and it kind of provides the user interface for everything there. So the idea is to give you that local feel when all of your code is remote. Mm-hmm. The other thing that's worth mentioning now, I guess, is we had a question earlier in the stream about Code with Me and Rider, and these features are very much related. There's the sort of the client that we use, the technology that we use there is very much related, and the update at the moment is that Code with Me is postponed for the next couple of iterations. So we're still working on it. We should, we'll hopefully. We're planning to get it working either in the next release, 2024.1, or the following one, 2024.2. We've done a huge amount of work refactoring the underlying architecture of Rider for how it works. It's kind of, because Rider has an external process with ReSharper, there's a lot of similarities to how that works with the remote development work with Code.me in the other IDEs. But ironically enough, they're using different sort of sync engines for different people typing. And so getting those to work has been very tricky. In this last release now, we've just rewritten the entire typing model for Rider so that it uses the same sync engine as Code.me and the other IDEs. And that's what we're using for the remote development scenarios. There's still a bunch of tests that we need to stabilize before we can really use that for things like Code.me and use it as the default typing model in Rider. But it's still very much in progress. We're starting to dog food it at the moment. It's still quite raw at the moment, but we will hopefully get some stuff soon.
Okay, cool. Very cool. So yeah, give DevContainers a try. I'm having an issue clicking some of the icons, but I think it's because the screen sharing model that I have. But yeah, most of it works. There are some still rough edges with some features. So yeah, if you run into any issues, please go to UTrack, add them in. But so far, this experience of using DevContainers has been pretty good. But yeah, like try it out, give us some feedback. It's pretty cool. So on that note, I'm going to throw it back to Sasha and she can move us along.
All right. Thanks a lot, folks. Well, okay. So I think there was one question that's from the chat that we also wanted to address. And I think, I'm not sure if you know the answer for this one, but
I for one don't know the answer to that one. Should be
All right.
possible technically, but I don't know where we are with that. So I would suggest create an issue, or if there's an issue, go upvote it on a UTrack, and then we'll get back to you there.
I mean, they could always wear some sunglasses just so that the light beam doesn't burn into their retinas.
all right.
Looking good, looking good. I also don't know the answer, but I do also know that the UIs are in heavy development right now as we're porting things between Windows and Mac and onto Avalonia. So there's a good chance that these kind of things are on the roadmap.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, I think now it's the right time to move over to Maarten, and here's about some of the stuff that we have in ReSharper. And let me just add the Maarten screen. Yeah, here we go.
All right. I think I promised close to 2 hours ago that I would talk about entity framework inspections in Rider and ReSharper. So this is the time I will show you some more entity framework in Rider or in ReSharper. And most of these things are also in Rider, except for the diagram that I will be showing. And let's maybe start with that one. If you have an entity framework entity that is bound to a certain DB context in ReSharper, you will see that next to that entity, we will actually show you a small database icon and say, look, this is an entity framework entity that was identified. You can right-click that one, and you can either say, okay, look, I'm not interested in this database icon, but if you are interested, you can actually get an entity relation diagram for your entire database context. So
Maarten, can I interrupt just for a sec?
Yeah, sure.
Can you zoom in just a little bit?
I can try to zoom in a little bit. I wanted to make sure that the diagram is there. So this is the icon. You can see all of the context menus there. And this is the diagram that you will get from that. So what you will see on the entity relationship diagram is all of the entities within the context that you have. And you also see the types of relations that are there. So you will see that there's a one-to-one or a one-to-many based on the icon there. And you also see all of the different columns and properties that are on every single entity that is there. One of the other things you will see here is one of the new inspections that we added for Entity Framework. So all of the properties that you see in red here have one inspection that got triggered, and that is the inspection that says there's an unlimited string length on a specific property. You will also see, by the way, if you go into the editor, that for this normalized name, for example, that there is the inspection that says possible performance issues due to unlimited string lengths. That inspection is actually looking at whether you have a max length attribute or a string length attribute on your entities or not. And to get rid of the inspection, you could say that, for example, this string can be 200 characters in the database. And now you'll see that the inspection goes away. If I would refresh the entity relationship diagram, ideally at some point that inspection should also go away. Now, the reason for that inspection is that if you're using SQL Server, for example, if you don't specify a maximum length for your strings, there's a big chance that with some queries, the database engine will have to scan through all of this, all of the pages on disk that contain the data for your database, and that might have a negative influence on performance. So it is definitely recommended to always add a max length attribute, for example, on your string properties. Now, one thing you may also notice is that on this name property, we don't have that inspection. The reason for that is that in Entity Framework, you can also specify certain constraints on your entities in the database context itself. And here what I did was on that country.name, I specified that the max length is 100. So ReSharper actually looks at both this, this model builder definition as well as the attributes that you have on the specific columns that are there. Some more inspections for Entity Framework. If in your query, you are making use of some of the Entity Framework specific database functions that are there, and my uncomment doesn't work for some reason, so let's do it artisanally. You will see that when you query something, and you do a query there using a database context function, like, for example, the I-like, case insensitive like in the database, that we will show you a squiggle when you are doing something that is database specific. So you will see that if I hover this one, that the bottom definition that you see there, or the bottom inspection, says database function must not be called in a non-database context. And the reason for that is that my query has actually already been executed on the database because I'm materializing everything to a list. And next, I'm using this database-specific like function, and that's of course not going to work because at this point I'm using link to objects and not link to Entity Framework. We also do this the other way around. And I'll use new variable names there as well. The other way around is that when you execute a database query directly on the database and you are using a method that is not compatible with SQL, so for example, it.name.contains with string comparison options, you will see that the inspection there at the bottom says function is not convertible to SQL and must not be called inside the database context. So we also try to warn you when you are using functions that are not compatible with the database. More Entity Framework features coming in the next release, but I think this one is definitely one that that is quite helpful if you're working with Entity Framework. And again, the inspections are also available in Rider. Quick switch of gears. We have .peek, which is our decompiler. And actually, the Assembly Explorer in ReSharper is embedded .peek, where you can open up any assembly and look into the codes that is there and actually decompile whatever is there. So we did a lot of updates there to show, for example, nullability information if you inspect whatever is going on in a certain assembly. The other thing we did is we expanded the ability to compare assemblies. So first of all, you could already compare assemblies between different versions. For example, in the previous version of ReSharper and .peek, what you can do now is also compare, for example, NuGet packages. So if you know the path to the package and you compare two packages, you will actually see a diff of all of the APIs that have changed or been added or removed between different versions of a specific NuGet package. So you will see those in there if you want to go through them. Might be a lot of information and maybe some information that you don't want to see there. So if you go into the ReSharper options and go into the decompiler's assembly diff settings, you can actually tell it to, for example, ignore when the order of methods has been changed or something like that, because very often those are not really meaningful differences between assembly versions, and you can simply ignore them from the diff and have less noise there, unless, of course, you're interested in that kind of difference. Couple more options there in terms of decompilation. We should have file sizes that are displayed whenever we have them, and a number of other small things, but I think in the interest of time that I'll just hand over to Sasha again.
Thanks again, Maarten. And I'd like to just voice the chat a bit again and say that this is magical, what you just showed to us. I
Cool.
first did it
Yay.
accidentally, but now I realized, it's actually magical. I think we have just a few other stuff to add by Matthias. Matthias?
Just
Should
one
I,
thing.
let me
Just one
just
thing.
share your
I'm ready.
screen. Yeah,
Yeah,
here you go.
great. Oh, it's the last one. It's really the last one. So we covered Qodana before already. I really just want to let people know, if you haven't tried it, the first try integration with Rider it is particularly great. Meanwhile, so you really just go to everything, then choose Qodana, then try code analysis with Qodana. By the way, Qodana means code analysis. And I've done this already, and just for you to get a kind of a feeling how Qodana feels for your project, then afterwards you just do open Qodana report in browser, and you can inspect ahead. So really, that's it. I just wanted to let everyone know Qodana got better. Yeah, I think we're done.
Right. Thanks a lot, Matthias. All right. Well, I think I would just like to, before we wrap up, I just want to, woohoo, yay. Oh, we've been here for more than 2 hours, folks. That's a lot. So I just want to add that we try to cover most of like the most important updates on our live stream, but then of course there's always more. So again, please make sure to check out our What's New pages for Rider, ReSharper, and also IntelliJ IDEA data grip, as there's also a lot of stuff for working with databases in Rider that came from data grip, and we didn't talk about it in this stream, and also WebStorm. And I'd also like to remind you that we regularly publish more in-depth blog posts about all of those important new features and updates in our .NET Tools blog. So we encourage you to check it out, subscribe to stay updated. And don't hesitate to leave your comments to our blog posts, because we are always happy to read them and reply. And I'm sure that all of the authors of the blog posts on this blog are very happy each time we see someone's reaction. So go ahead and check it out. And you can always get in touch with us on our social media. Make sure to subscribe to our product channels on Twitter, X, whatever it is now. And also, of course, subscribe to our YouTube JetBrains channel, or also Twitch, if you are watching us on Twitch. And if you like this release party, let us know in the comments to this live stream. And you're always welcome to explore all other videos on our YouTube channel. Thanks everyone for joining and staying with us over those 2 hours. And thanks a lot. Oh yeah, thanks, I forgot this slide.
Thanks, folks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.